It is 10:03, so we gave you 3 extra minutes to commune together. Let everybody know how your week's been going, what you plan to do this next week. So we're excited that you're here. Visitors, we have a special place over here for you to visit before you leave. Maybe you saw it on the way in, but we have a welcome center over here. And I believe the Moorheads are gracious enough to be over there with us today to greet you. We have a little care package that we would like to send you off with, and we want to invite you back again. Hopefully everybody has had a good fall break. Seems like it's finally starting to get a little cooler for us, so that's nice. This morning we will be looking at how to deal with people different from us. So that'll be, I'm going to be able to bring that lesson this morning. Jeffrey is out of town this weekend. I'm the youth minister here, so if you have any children ages 6th grade through 12th grade, I'd love to meet you. I'll be standing back here in the back at the end of our service. So come see me. I'd love to get to meet you. Make sure you stick around, even if you don't have kids that age, so that we can meet you and get to know you. And we definitely want you to be part of this body. We have a great body of Christians here, disciples here that are striving to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. And we try to do that each and every day. But we're so thankful that we can come together on this Lord's Day and worship together. We're going to start off with some songs. We're going to have our communion time together, have this lesson on different from me, how to deal with people different from us. And we hope you enjoy this time. You can lift up your praises and thanks to God and commune and encourage one another. Let's start with some praise. Good morning. There you are. Again, Jeffrey's not here with us. He's our preacher here, and he's normally up here on Sunday mornings if you're visiting with us. My name is Chad. I'm the youth minister here. I've been here a little over 2 years and have enjoyed the growth and the excitement and the movement we're making here at Trenton Crossing. So hopefully you can continue to be involved, to stick around to meet us, to get involved. If you're not in a ministry that's going on, we have so many great things that are going on, so many different things going on because we are all different people. We have different strengths. We have different personalities. We deal with different people every day. We even deal with difficult people on a day-to-day basis. And these people can be in your workplace, they can be in your home, they can be in your group of friends. They may even be in the church body that you worship with. And you know, and I've taken a few of these throughout my life. Has anybody ever taken a personality test or a skills test? One of those things that tells you who you are, kind of thing. They will even tell you, like, if you're a certain animal. Maybe you're an eagle. Anybody an eagle? Or a snake? Or a bear? Or an owl? There's even a type that's if you're a beaver. And I don't know, I can't remember what all that is, but it'll let you know if you have the personality type of a beaver. There's different tests. One might say whether you're a creator, maybe you're an advancer. A creator is someone who has creative ideas. They come up with cool things. An advancer is somebody who promotes it, encourages it. A refiner, they like the details of everything. They're the ones that come back and kind of tell you what works or doesn't work in a good way. It's good to have refiners. And then there's the executors. Those are the ones who actually get the job done. They're the ones who fulfill the activity. And then there's a flexor. And I was on the more creative advancer side, but in ministry I've had to become a flexor. A flexor is one who is all kind of has to do all four, adapts and kind of goes toward the middle of the scale. If you're one or the other, you go to the extremes. Mine has more and more become flexor. Amanda is a really good flexor. But we take these personality tests, we take these skill tests, and they all have their pros and their cons, kind of depending on your view and your personality yourself. But I think we can all agree that these four identity types are always on the difficult side to deal with. And so as I reveal these, if you value the relationship of the person sitting next to you, I would refrain from looking over, giving a little snicker, maybe a kind of thing. The first one is called the downer. They're also known as the negative Nancy, the Debbie Downer. They always have something bad to say. They complain, they critique, they judge. They're almost impossible to please. They're fault-finding, they're blaming. And they usually complain about what needs to get done, but they're not particularly the person themselves that can get it done. Their complaining is not effective. It's usually just to point responsibility on someone else. And then we have the better thans. These are also known as the know-it-alls, the one-uppers. Whatever story you tell, they have a better story. Whatever you have, they have the better, newer, faster version of that. They're the show-offs. They like to impress you. They like to name drop. They like to compare. They act superior, and a lot of times they'll make you feel kind of dumb. They're not really helpful. They're really self-reliant. They want to do everything themselves. They want to have it their way, and they don't really want to change. And then you have the passives, also known as kind of the pushovers, the yes men, the weaklings. They don't really contribute much to the conversation. They let other people around them do all the hard work. They're the ones that say, it won't work. Or we've tried that before and failed. Many times these people can be angry and bitter. They like to try, kind of drag us through the mud. They can put us in a place of doubt and disappointment. And then we all know a tank. A tank is the person that is explosive. They're loud. They're considered a handful. It might even be considered bossy. That says, I'm not bossy, I'm just helpful. But they're one of those ones that have to have it their way, and they'll do anything to get it. Okay, so did you pass the challenge of not looking over at the person next to you? Did you look over, or are you picturing someone in your head right now? Well, you've now just become a downer. Okay, so you've put yourself now in that downer category. If you can think of, or you kind of was like, "That's you, honey." We're getting, I don't want to start any fights. So how do we deal with people that are like this? They're a downer, passive, or a tank, or a know-it-all. I've got just a couple of suggestions. I'm sure there's more that you could probably come up with. But the first thing we do when we come across a person like this, or when we have to deal with people like this, is not to try to change them. It's really easy when we're dealing with a different person from us. Maybe they're in our family, maybe they're in our close circle of friends, maybe they're in our workplace. It's really easy to try to change them or to fix them. We encourage downers. You just need to be more positive. We encourage passives. Stand up for yourselves. Tanks, you need to calm down. Better thans, you should be more humble. We want to change them. We want to fix them. The thing is when we try to do that, it most of the time, if never, works. When we try to change someone from who they are or what's ingrained in them, a lot of times that will help them to resent you. They'll dig their heels in. They can even get worse than they were. And so what we need to do instead is to try to understand them. We can disengage a difficult person by just trying to understand where they're coming from, to find out what they value most, because it's those things that drive them, that motivate them, motivate their decisions. Some people it's money, some people it's power, some people it's knowledge. And if we just try to understand them and where they're coming from, a lot of times it can help them just to relax and maybe to become more open-minded. For example, like a tank, many times they just want their opinions to be known and to know that their opinions matter. And so if we just take some time and listen, a lot of times that can diffuse the situation, can help them not to blow up, help them not dominate the situation. So don't try to change them. Try to understand them, but at the same time, we don't want to let them be toxic. Some difficult people can be just toxic. They can be passive aggressive, mean, hurtful. And so when we deal with them, we have to understand where they're coming from, but we may want to keep our distance because those toxic relationships can be harmful to us. So we need to create a little bit of a maybe buffer zone by surrounding ourselves with good friends, bringing others to the conversation to help encourage the situation. Seeing them a little less often if we can help. But if we've got to be in that situation with them, say it's a workplace or it's something that you have to see them every day, just try to find a minimum amount of time that you can deal with them or be with them. So we all have these difficult people in our lives, but not all different people are difficult people. Just because they're different than us doesn't make them in the difficult category. If we put them in the difficult category, then we're probably in the difficult category ourselves. So we have to watch for that. So the bottom line I want you to think about this morning is that we have different people in our lives and that we are different from one another. None of us are the same. We may have some of the same personalities and interests, but none of us are the same. We're all different. But it's in those differences, can you agree with me on this? In those differences and in that diversity, we can actually be stronger. We can help one another out. Just look at the disciples. Wow, what a great example of diversity. These guys spanning across all kinds of political spectrums. You have a former zealot, radical, determined to overthrow Roman rule. You have another that's a tax collector, virtually a traitor to the Jewish nation and involved in Rome. We know 4 of them at least, maybe 7, were fishermen. They were close friends from Capernaum, probably knew each other from childhood. And we're not really told about some of the others before they became followers of Christ, but I believe that they would be tradesmen or craftsmen of some kind, doing different things. So they are all different. They were all had their own strengths and things that they brought to the table. And so these 12, their personalities were all different, and they had their different gifts. And Christ selected them, even with their flaws. See, he knew them as only the Creator could know them. He knew all their faults before he chose them. See, Judas is going to betray him, but he still gave him the same privileges. He still gave him the same blessings as he did the others. Just think about the ramifications of this from our human perspective. See, the spread of this gospel, this founding of the church, was on these 12 men. And their most outstanding characteristic was their ordinariness. See, Christ chose them, and he trained them, which was in a span of months, not years. He trained them. He guided them. It was a very intense but brief discipleship. And wow, after all that love and all that teaching put into it, what happens on the night of his betrayal? It says in Matthew 26:56, all the disciples forsook him and fled. So from our perspective, from our view, it seems like this program was a monumental failure. It seems like the disciples just forgot or ignored everything that Jesus taught them about taking up your cross and following him. See, from our perspective, the founding of this church, the spreading of the gospel, depended on these 12 men and their obvious weaknesses. And then one of them that was so devilish enough to betray the Lord of the universe. But Christ knew what he was doing. See, he's looking at it from a divine perspective. See, he knew the ultimate success of this strategy didn't depend on the skill of these men, but rather depended on the very Spirit of God to accomplish this in his sovereign will. See, the mission could not be spoiled. God had a plan, and Jesus, though he prayed, "Take this from me," was willing to follow through with that plan and accomplish the fulfillment of the law. And that's why today we sing these praises, we encourage one another, we have the church body, we go out and make disciples, because it's God that can get all the praise and all the glory and all the honor. He delights in using such ordinary means to accomplish his will. If you will look with me, it's on the screen, 1 Corinthians chapter 27 through 29. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things and the things that are not, to nullify the things that are, so that no one may boast before him. See, Jesus was about bringing reconciliation between God and his people. The gospel is about bringing reconciliation between people and people. See, the gospel, when it starts to take root into our lives, starts to take root into our hearts, we get this shift of how we influence and how we're involved and how we look at people that are different from us, how we look at others around us, especially those that are different from us, whether it be ethnic, culture, speech, economic, social status, or personality. The gospel changes how we view others and how we treat others. See, the disciples were a great example of how the gospel, how the mission of Christ has a personal effect on those around us, especially those we're at odds with. those that we're separate from, those that we wouldn't particularly hang out with. The gospel changes how we see people, how we view people, and how we treat people. Because see, it's not about you. It's not about me, though I want to think it is sometimes. It's about being, big word here, unified in Christ. Living, I love this part, living a life worthy of the gospel. That's my mission statement, trying to live a life worthy of the gospel. It's about being flexible. Can we be a little more flexible in our attitudes toward others, how we treat others? Can we be a little more humble? Maybe a little bit more understanding of where somebody else is coming through, and we don't know what story God has put them through to get them where they're at. So maybe we need to be a little more flexible, humble, and understanding. And we're going to fail. Okay, we're going to fail at that sometimes, and that's okay, because in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 9 and 10, it says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then I am content with weakness, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, I am made strong." I want to close with some lyrics from a group called Switchfoot. It's a new song that's out on the radio. I don't know how long it's been out, but I heard it and it just, I was working on this lesson and I heard this song and I was like, I've got to read these lyrics so that they can hear this. If you haven't, I want to read these lyrics to you and think about what we've talked about this morning as I read these lyrics. "Take the burden from my arms. Take the anchors off my lungs. Take me broken and make me one. Break the silence and make it a song. Life is short. I want to live it well. One life, one story to tell. Life is short. I want to live it well. And you're the one I'm living for. Awaken, oh my soul. Every breath you take is a miracle. Life is short. I want to live it well. I want to sing with all of my heart a lifelong song. Even if some notes come out right and some come out wrong. Because I can't take none of that through the door. I'm living for more than just a funeral. I want to burn brighter than the dawn. I got one life and one love, and I got one voice. But maybe that's enough. Because with one heartbeat and with two hands to give, I've got one shot, one life to live. Every breath you take is a miracle. Life is short. I want to live it well. So life is short. And we are called to be one body, one spirit. Do you want to live it well? Hopefully you do. And that starts by obeying the gospel and becoming a Christian. And once you do that, it's about making disciples of all nations. It's about dealing with people that are different than you, maybe even difficult. Being the love of Christ to them, being encouraging to them, loving your enemy, loving your friends, loving your family. Being one being unified, being one body, one spirit, especially within the church as we're called to love one another. We sang that song. Maybe some stuff has been going on in your life. I know some people in here that are struggling. There's times that I struggle, and we just need to get that out there. We need the prayers of our church body so that we can be encouraged and be accountable. Maybe you're in a place that's been kind of selfish. Maybe you've been discouraged. Maybe you've been a little distant, and you need to be drawn back in. Because you're different than me, and that's okay. Because we have something in common. We're blood. Through the blood of Christ, we are family. And so this morning we want to, if you would like to become a Christian, we want to do that for you. If you need the prayers of the church, we'd love for you to come forward and do that so that we can pray for you, encourage you, and we'll make that available now as we stand up and sing together.